Elon Musk says it's time to declare war on the deep administrative state. Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, I know obviously in many ways the story is the Super Bowl and how the Philadelphia Eagles just manhandled, blew the doors open right off the Kansas City Chiefs. And President Trump was there in attendance, warmly received by the crowd. Taylor Swift, not so much. But the real story over the weekend, when the parade is over and the people on the talking heads on ESPN and other places are done with their analysis of why Kansas City failed to achieve a three-peat and Philadelphia emerged as the best team this year, that's going to be gone. What we're going to have to live with is what Elon Musk, Doge, and his team have now found. Forget USAID. And that was a monster scandal story. What we're now finding at the Treasury Department, my friends, it is shocking. Literally, there's just no other way to describe it. And what I just want to say before we get into the actual details, because the details really are mind-boggling, this is what we voted for. In other words, to finally confront the truth, to finally unmask and expose what our politicians, what the swamp, what the Democrats in particular, what the deep state have been doing behind our backs really now for decades. And so the information that's now coming out is depressing, it's demoralizing, in some ways it's profoundly overwhelming. The scale of the corruption, the scale, and this is Elon now, this is not even me saying this is Elon Musk, this is Trump now in a huge interview over the weekend for the Super Bowl, saying that the scale of the corruption, the money laundering, the embezzlement, the bribery, the waste, the fraud, the abuse, is something nobody thought was humanly possible. Now, all this means is we saved our country in November. We literally dodged a bullet. Had we not won, none of this would be coming out. And because it's being exposed, we now have a once-in-a-generation, maybe once-in-a-century opportunity to finally make the fundamental reforms and changes and have a system of accountability and transparency worthy of a constitutional republic, worthy of us and our children and our grandchildren. So honestly, don't get sad, get mad. And when we get mad, it's time for us to now demand that heads roll and people go to jail. Because what's now coming out now is corruption beyond an European level. That's what I said to Grace last night after the Super Bowl. I said, what Doge is now uncovering, what Elon and Trump are now uncovering, this is starting to put Vladimir Putin to shame. Honestly, this is starting to put Ukraine to shame. So, let me get right into it. Elon Musk and his team of Doge auditors have now looked at the Treasury Department, just the Treasury Department. And I want to stress this to you. Elon is saying that's still not the big money. The big money is going to be Social Security and the fraud in Medicare and Medicaid, the big entitlement programs. But they looked at Social Security. And what they found when they looked at Social Security is, listen to this, that $100 billion a year, every year, going back decades, 100 with a B, $billion a year, have now been fraudulently misappropriated and misspent. That in fact, and by the way, these are Social Security payments, checks checks, Social Security checks, which are supposed to go to American citizens, law-abiding American citizens who paid into the system. No. Social Security checks, disability payments for people who are disabled, checks, payments to dead people, but they're obviously being cashed in. Somebody's collecting these checks. Went $100 billion to individuals with no Social Security number whatsoever. No Social Security number whatsoever. Many, forget no Social Security, they didn't even have a temporary ID number. Not even a temporary. That's $100 billion. Elon Musk said, I brought in the career government employees at Treasury, many of them with 20, 30, 40 years experience. And the consensus in the room, at a bare minimum, they said we're talking the low, not the high, the low. 50 billion of that 100 billion is 1,000% fraud. Stone cold fraud. It is going to illegal aliens. It is going to people in other countries. It is going to grifters, to organizations that are stealing Social Security or disability funds to line their own pockets. It is going to family members who are claiming that someone who is deceased is still alive. And so they're pocketing checks. Now, Elon says if you just do this, it's about $2.7 trillion over the last several decades that have literally been wasted, misappropriated, outright stolen. Stolen. And that's only that we know of. That's only that we know of. $2.7 trillion with a T. I'm telling you, in Putin's Russia, they don't steal $2.7 trillion. In Ukraine, and it's bad, they don't steal $2.7 trillion. This is what I meant when I said earlier, this is beyond Eastern European level. This is, they are robbing us blind. And what Elon and his team have further found, listen to this, is that management at the Treasury Department don't give a damn. They were told repeatedly by lower level working employees at Treasury, those people did care. Where is the money going? Money is being sent through the door, hundreds of billions of dollars, to people with no Social Security number, to people that are clearly in this country illegally, to organizations that we have no idea. Some of them were actual fronts for terrorist organizations. Fronts for terrorist organizations. Others, they said, clearly, the mother and the father are dead. They didn't claim them as dead. And we're just sending checks, and some loser child, some son, some daughter, someone is collecting multiple checks off of dead people. Now, remember, we have social people, elderly in this country, who rely on Social Security. We have veterans with disabilities who rely on these disability checks. We have people in this country who are literally living hand to mouth. There is no money for them. But we're allowing trillions of dollars, $100 billion a year, every year, to be flushed right down a rat hole? Elon Musk said that the accounting is so sloppy with all the checks going through the Treasury Department that there isn't even a categorization code, which is standard to everyone out there listening, especially the accountants. You tell me if that's not true, because I read it everywhere that it's true. To a standard categorization code, okay, if you're going to be sending this amount of money, what's it for? I don't know, is it for a pension? Is it for a disability check? Is it for health and human service? Whatever. There's got to be so we're on this line item, these checks are flying out. What is it for? And then there's supposed to be a comment field beside it. And in that comment field, you write whatever, Social Security payment, whatever, disability payment. Comment fields blank. No categorization codes. He says that's the reason for that, to make it almost impossible to audit the money. Well, now, after finding out this incredible waste, fraud, and abuse, this crime, this massive crime, an Obama judge Saturday night issued an injunction against Donald Trump, the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, Elon, and Doge. You cannot access those records or those payment systems. They're trying to cover up the 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, like an absolute steamroller. Trump and Elon now are finding out even more, much more corruption, money laundering, embezzling, fraud, abuse, waste of taxpayer dollars. They're starting to slowly hit the mother lode. They're getting there. So this is now the absolute latest. Trump now has ordered Elon to do a thorough audit of the Treasury Department. And in particular, payments made by the Treasury Department regarding Social Security benefits, Social Security checks, disability checks, and other payments that have been made over the last several decades. Well, Elon now has found at least $100 billion a year, every year, going back decades. $100 billion a year are going to individuals who do not have a Social Security number. To me, it's mind-boggling. Isn't there a self-correcting mechanism? Like, I'm sorry, you're working at the Treasury Department. Checks are being cut. That's our money. And you're sending off checks to people who don't even have a Social Security number? A tax ID number? Literally nothing. It'll be like Jeff Kuhner, it's blank. Well, what if Jeff Kuhner's a criminal? What if Jeff Kuhner doesn't really even live in the United States? What if Jeff Kuhner's an illegal alien? What if, I could go, what if this is a fraud? Did anybody ever, hello? No? No? And the checks just kept rolling out year after year on automatic pilot. The bureaucratic corruption, the bureaucratic apathy, the lack of any accountability, transparency. Elon said that if this was the private sector, this would have been taken care of decades ago. People would have been fired in massive numbers, and some people would have gone to jail for embezzling, misuse of funds. Instead, he's the bad guy. The Democrats are going berserk. They're trying to turn Elon now, if it's possible. This is what many are noticing. If you look at the media coverage, they actually hate him more than Trump. I never thought this would be possible in the United States of America, but they actually now consider Elon a greater threat than Trump, a greater public enemy number one than Trump. And they are now doing everything in their power to destroy him, to utterly destroy him. Forget calling him Hitler, forget calling him a Nazi. They are looking now to investigate his businesses. They want to get him on some kind of criminal or corruption charge. There's at least, the New York Times is running 3 to 6 hit pieces a day against Elon Musk. He is now the new Darth Vader. Okay? Lord Elon. And every day the news is running a hit piece against them. All these ABC, CBS, NBC, the legacy media, like a cornered rat, is now looking to thoroughly demonize and discredit and really destroy Elon. Elon, however, just keeps following the receipts, keeps showing the receipts, and the more he shows, the bigger the scandal gets. So, just so that you know, many of you need to know this. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say this. It's Monday morning. We just had the Super Bowl yesterday. But I have been spending, I don't know how much of my taxpayer money. Most of you have been spending so much of your taxpayer money to go to illegal aliens, to fraudulent organizations, to grifters who lie about deaths in their family and are getting multiple checks, even though the mother is dead, the father is dead. They should not be collecting Social Security anymore. As an example, they've been collecting, the kids or whoever is collecting. Illegals now, apparently, they were scamming the system, and they got massive checks, Social Security checks. We thought it was just welfare. We thought it was the prepaid Visa debit cards. No. Democrats got them on Social Security. So our own citizens don't have Social Security, or would like maybe a raise in Social Security. We say there's never enough money. That's because $2.7 trillion that we know of through the payment system at the Treasury Department has been misallocated, misused, and laundered. The money has been laundered. And Elon now says it is a complete consensus at the U.S. Treasury Department. These are career government employees who've been working 15, 20, 25, 30 years at a base minimum of the $100 billion going to people with no Social Security numbers. $50 billion is outright fraud. Outright fraud. They're robbing us blind. I mean, and doesn't it all start to make sense when you sit back objectively? Over the last 30, 40 years, okay, let's say the last 30 years, just to give it a round number. How much have we spent on roads, on bridges, on infrastructure? How many trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars we spend in our budget every single year, yet nothing ever seems to get better. The money never seems to end up where it's supposed to go. We spend so much on healthcare. Do we see the results? We spend so much on education. Do we see the results? As I said, we spend so much on infrastructure. Do we see the results? And now, as Elon lifts the veil, as he lifts the curtain, as he pulls up the hood, now we know why. Because the money is being stolen, and both Elon and Trump now say there are massive kickbacks involved with politicians and their families. My friends, a lot more to come. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, it's another explosive, really it's a bombshell. Another explosive revelation. This time, Elon Musk, through Doge, has now exposed $100 billion in annual entitlement payments. This is going through the Treasury Department to individuals without any Social Security numbers or IDs. Guaranteed half, at least minimum, is completely fraudulent. They suspect the whole thing obviously is fraudulent, but they're saying there's no way that at least 50, remember it's $100 billion a year, to individuals without any traceable Social Security numbers or identification numbers. And when asked throughout the entire Treasury Department, what is going on here? It is a complete and utter consensus that at a bare minimum, $50 billion per year is unequivocally fraudulent. Their words. So basically $1 billion per week is being stolen, embezzled, laundered, wasted, or engaged in some kind of fraud. And this has been going on for decades. Absolutely decades. Now, what's really infuriating on top of everything else, and you need to hear this. I know it's dry. I know it's boring. But this is the heart of the battle. This war between Trump and the swamp. And it's now a war. This is a war. U.S. District Judge Paul A. Engelmayer. He is a Barack Obama appointee. He's an Obama judge. Listen now to this. Issued an injunction Saturday night. 19 Democrat state attorneys general filed a lawsuit. Now think about this. What the hell does Massachusetts was in on it, okay? So Andrea Campbell. What the hell is it to Andrea Campbell? How is this her business or her purview or her responsibility to prevent Elon Musk and Doge from tracking and auditing fraud regarding payments of Social Security benefits? But what does this have to do with her and then Massachusetts? Well, it's the Democrats now. They want to keep the corruption going. They want to make sure that the corruption doesn't stop. It's now all about protecting the corruption. So 19 of these state attorneys general filed a lawsuit, and they went judge shopping. And so they went to this corrupt Obama judge, and he's clearly corrupt. And incredibly, he's now issued an injunction not only preventing Elon and Doge from accessing, these payments that have been going fraudulently to illegal aliens, dead people, and God knows, by the way, organized crime, terrorist front groups. I mean, you got to see what white collar criminals, you got to see what they're finding out where this money is going. Not only can they not track the money, but listen to this. This judge has told the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, it's his own department, that he doesn't have the right to access that information. That President Trump doesn't have the right to access that information. So what this judge is telling the president and telling the Treasury Secretary and Elon, who works at the pleasure and the leisure of both Bessent and Trump, you have no control over your own department. Think about how insane this ruling is. That the president, who is the commander-in-chief, who not only runs the executive branch, but if you read Article 2 of the Constitution, it is crystal clear. He is the executive branch. Every employee in every federal agency in the executive branch ultimately works for the president. What the Democrats, the media, and this insane judge is saying is, no. The president has no control over the executive branch. The president has no control over any agency. The president can't access any piece of information, any data, nothing whatsoever. So if there's massive corruption going on, it's just too bad. There's nothing you can do about it. And here's the kicker. This judge, and this judge is dirty. This judge is really dirty. Has now ordered, listen to this, that all the evidence of criminality that has been discovered by Doge must be destroyed. Because it's violating, quote unquote, privacy and financial information. This is a dirty judge. This is a crooked judge. This is a corrupt judge who's obviously protecting his master Obama and the Democratic Party. This judge should be impeached and disbarred on the freaking spot. On the spot. And that's why, by the way, Elon now responded with fire and fury, saying it's now clear the Democrats are going to they're going to go judge shopping, and they're going to find the biggest corrupt hack, the most far-left moonbat they can find, to try to stonewall and obstruct our investigation, because they want the corruption to continue. They want to protect this massive corruption. So now we are in a war, a life-death battle between Donald Trump and Elon Musk on one side, and Doge, and the swamp on the other. My question to you, it's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Kelly Financial Services. Sorry, sponsored by Mario's. My bad. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. I'm coming. I have a very bad flu. Trust me. My head is really congested. I can barely think. So the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Who do you think will win this war between Trump and Musk and the swamp? A, Trump and Musk. B, the swamp. You can vote on my webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word. Victor in Georgetown. You're going to kick us off. Thanks for holding, Victor, and welcome.
Kuhner, man, your topic is just right on. And this morning they announced that on Friday, FEMA, which is supposed to be for natural disasters, dispersed $49 million to the luxury hotels for the immigrant rent in New York City. Totally illegal under the orders given by President Trump, and this will work. This is going to work through. Here's what I want you to, all our listeners here, to relax, because here's the deal. Elon Musk has a top secret clearance, number one. He's not some guy that's just poking around. It's totally top secret clearance. And, the only hope to slow down, it's like Tom Brady driving for a touchdown. They can't do anything, so they have to pay off the refs. And that's what these corrupt judges do. They can only slow it down, though, Kuhner, man. It's not Trump and Elon Musk against the Democrat Marxists.
Victor, can you please hang on, because we're up against a break. But Victor's making a very, very good point. They can slow him down, but can they stop the Trump-Musk juggernaut? That is the question. And will they be able to destroy some important evidence? More to come next. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go to Victor in Georgetown, obviously. He was making a very, very good point that although this judge, this Obama hack, is desperately now trying to help the Democrats destroy data, evidence, information of massive corruption, bribery, and money laundering. In the end, like a ref trying to stop, say, a Tom Brady offense in the Super Bowl, it's not going to work. That Trump and Elon have too much momentum, too much truth, too much access, ultimately, and that they will prevail. Before I get to Victor, just very, very quickly, I want to read to you the words, and I want Victor to react to it. These are the words of Elon Musk himself. Okay, this is what Elon now has found. This is in the Treasury Department. These are the checks for Social Security, disability, and other payments. Yesterday, I was told that there are currently over $100 billion a year, every year, of entitlement payments to individuals with no social security number or even a temporary ID number. Just to me, it's unbelievable. Third world banana, I have to say this. Third world banana republics don't have this. Okay, but anyway, he continues. If accurate, this is extremely suspicious. That's what he wrote on X. When I asked if anyone at Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was about half. So $50 billion a year, every year, or $1 billion a week, going back decades. This is utterly insane and must be addressed immediately. He then went on to say, think about that. $1 billion per week. Taxpayer money. Gone. Stolen from American taxpayers. While Judge Engelmeyer's courtroom protects the very system, the very corrupt system that allowed it to happen. And so Musk went on to say, Doge investigators discovered that government payments were made with no proper documentation, no audit trails, and zero accountability. And I don't want to repeat what I said earlier, but basically they sent out checks to people with no payment categorization code, which is never done in the private sector, ever. And they go, you don't understand. You need these categorization codes to pass a financial audit. I'm sorry. Okay. So $100 billion flew out the door. Who got it? What was the purpose of the money? Where did it go? Nothing. It's blank. It was just literally left blank. And as Elon said, they were frequently left blank, making audits almost impossible. So the point was, you couldn't follow the money. That's how they rigged the system. Then, to further cover their rear end, he says, again, in the private sector, everybody would have... I can't handle the emails. I'm not saying this in a critical way. Business people are emailing me now. They're losing their minds. Saying, you know what kind of paperwork we have to comply with? We have to give payment categorization codes for everything and comment section, a brief comment, what the money specifically is going for. And the Treasury Department hasn't been doing this for 25, I almost swore, 25, blanking years. So Elon says, look, the payments must also have a rationale for the payment in the comment field. The whole world works like this. The whole private sector works like this. But now they're finding that the comment fields were blank. So, to explain the payment, there's nothing to explain the payment. Then, to add insult to injury, this is holy. He says, then there is something you put in called the do not pay list. In other words, there's a list of people or entities where they go, look, that person is dead. Stop sending a social security check. Or that person is an illegal. Stop sending a social security check. Or more commonly, that's a terrorist front organization. Okay? They're not doing things to help people in wheelchairs. Stop sending them any money. The do not pay list of entities known to be fraudulent or people who are dead or are probable fronts for terrorist organizations or do not match congressional appropriations must actually be implemented and not ignored. They've been ignoring them when they've been told, don't send the money to these lists of people or entities. And then, when they finally do something about it, it can currently take up to a year to get on this list. which is far too long. This list should be updated at least weekly, if not daily. Duh. So, Jeff Kuhner is dead. Stop sending him a Social Security check. Okay? Let me just give it to you that. Okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. And it may take up to a year. So for a year, somebody is collecting my check. And Elon is saying, this is insane. This is insane. This list should be updated every week, frankly, every day, but at a minimum every week. And now a judge has come in to protect this corrupt system and to tell Elon and Trump and Bessent that they do not have the right to access information in the Treasury Department. The Treasury Secretary does not have the right to look at info and data in his own department now, according to these crazy judges, left-wing judges. The president has no right to know what's going on in the executive branch, according to these crazy left-wing judges. Victor in Georgetown, what say you?
Kuhner, man, you got your finger on it, brother. And listen to this. First, they tell us for decades there is no corruption. You know, the Democrat Marxists say, oh, we're doing a great job. No corruption. You people are ridiculous. You're insane. Conspiracy theories. And once the corruption is being shown and it's everywhere, they shift, they pivot. And what they say then is, well, we don't like the way you uncovered that corruption. Do you see the pivot that they have built in? But here's the difference, Jeff. CBS, ABC, NBC don't have the juice anymore. Now you have the Rogan podcast. You got the Kuhner man. You got X, Twitter. They cannot override us. When that judge, when they send this appeal up to the circuit where the real judges sit on the circuit court of appeals, that's going to get overturned instantly. And this juggernaut is going to keep on rolling. And the best thing that your listeners and me, I do this every day, Jeff. I get the worst stuff that they have done, and I put it on Facebook and a couple other media sites that I'm on. That's what we can do as citizens. And I hope to God they listen to you, Jeff, and they take, hey, and these people are playing for their lives. They will do anything to get away with what they've been doing. Do not take them, without an awful lot of caution, and just keep the pressure on them, Jeff. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Victor. Well, we have to. I mean, they are stealing our money, our children's money, our grandchildren's money. You want to know why we're going broke? Now how we know why we're going broke? And the greed. Here, just very quickly. Here, you got to one more. There's so many stories now. It's like an avalanche. It's overwhelming. You can't process it. You can't absorb it all. So listen now to this. They found $2 billion, $2.14 billion, that was supposed to be allocated for Haiti. Okay, to help again the starving kids in Haiti. I talked about, it's a different example, but I talked about something similar on Friday. Elon's people did an audit. 2% went to the children. 2%. Well, Jeff, where did the other 98% go? Now, 98% of 2.14 billion. Do the math. Basically, it's 2 billion. So, crumbs off the table for the poor starving children in Haiti. The money was kicked back to powerful lobbying firms in Washington, D.C., in Northern Virginia, which, as you know, borders D.C., and in suburban Maryland, which, as you know, borders D.C. So, $2 billion of that was supposed to go for starving children ends up in the pockets of the most powerful lobbying firms in the greater Washington area, and Shazam! Because it's such a coincidence, isn't it? Who do you think sits on the boards of those lobbying firms? The children of powerful politicians. Pelosi's kid, Romney's kid. You can run down the whole line. Jean-Francois, John Kerry, all of them. In other words, they all have their kids sitting on these boards, on all of these companies, organizations, NGOs, lobbyists, and they're raking in hundreds and hundreds of millions in cash. That's where the money is going. And they're greedy. They're just greedy. And it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So there's nothing left for the poor, starving children in Haiti. There's nothing left for potholes in the United States. There's nothing left for homeless veterans. There's nothing left for fire and for police. All we get, as I said, are crumbs off the table. How many Americans now, they nickel and dime you on your Social Security? You've been paying into the system your entire life. Suddenly now you start collecting Social Security. Oh, they're nickel and diming you now. Now apparently, no. It's too much what you get. You gotta pay them back. Here, let me just give you an example. Okay, this is from Ken on Messenger, and I get a lot of complaints. Okay, people on this, who listen to the show, many of them have worked hard their entire lives. They've earned their Social Security, but they keep fighting with the Social Security Administration. Listen now to Ken. Tell me if you haven't had a similar story. Good morning, Jeff. I've been collecting Social Security benefits now for almost 6 years. Paid more than my fair share into the system since I started working at 16 years old. 1 year into collecting Social Security, I received a letter from them saying that they overpaid me $9,560. And I am responsible to pay this money back sooner rather than later. I paid it back very reluctantly and later found out through friends of mine that are also collecting Social Security benefits that they did the same thing to them with the exact same amount. I am 2 weeks shy of my 70th birthday. Let me tell you, Ken, what happened. They needed to funnel more money to the illegals. They needed to funnel more money to people who don't have Social Security numbers. Who doesn't have a Social Security number? Or even a Social Security ID. A temporary ID, I mean. So, no temporary ID, no Social Security number, but they're funneling $100 billion of checks a year? Now you know why they wanted their $9,000 back. We're paying too much. Of course you're paying too much. Because you got to give all this money to illegals. It's disgusting. I'm telling you, it's disgusting. It's truly, utterly disgusting. And now you know why the Democrats look at Elon as public enemy number one, and why they are petrified of Donald Trump, petrified of Doge, and will do absolutely anything, because this corruption is the life's blood of their party. Without this corruption, the Democrats are finished. 617-266-6868. Anthony in Plainville. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call. I want
my pleasure,
to start off with, thank you. I wanted to start off with your poll question. Not only do I think that Donald Trump is going to defeat the swamp, because it's not just Trump, it's Elon Musk, and it's the millions and millions of people who not only voted for him, but have switched and are now supporting Trump from the Democratic Party, independents are now supporting Donald Trump. He's the most popular president of my lifetime. And this is what draining a swamp looks like. It's dirty. It's not clean. But what is being exposed, the fraud, the corruption, the abuse, that's what Trump has been doing for the last 21 days. And you know what, Jeff, in a way, I'm kind of relieved because we're the richest nation in the world. And sometimes I'll go onto the U.S. debt clock and I'll look and I'm like, where is the money going? Because there has been an administration that's wanted to fix this problem. But we've got an administration, because it's not just Trump, it is Elon Musk, but it's a lot of other guys behind the scenes in his administration that are going to get this exposed and corrected. And that's I kind of feel the hope and relieved because we were wasting money. We were, having people in control that were abusing and mismanaging it. But the pendulum is swinging. And so it's almost like hope in America is back. And it's only been 21 days. And then if you step back a little bit, Jeff, and look at the big picture, look at just the impact of Trump's administration. The record number of men and women joining the military. Recruitment is up. 90% border crossings, it's down. The lowest numbers that we've seen in 5 years. There's a pendulum swing, Jeff. It's positive. It's going in the right direction. It's taking time, but it's only been 21 days. So I'm very positive, and I'm really happy that all this is being exposed because that's the first step.
Yeah, Anthony, I completely agree with you, every single word. I would just quibble with one small aspect where you said, we're finding out now where our money is being wasted, where our money is being fraudulently spent. To be honest, I think that's too kind on your part. I think I think it's too generous on your part. Waste, fraud, and abuse is a couple million here, a couple million there, and maybe eventually $1 billion or $2 billion in all. When you're looking at what we have found, whether it's USAID, now through the Treasury Department, now Elon says, wait till we get into Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. I'm sorry, I have to say it the way I really see it. This is rape. This is rape. When we talk about the oligarchs in Russia, or the oligarchs in Ukraine, or the oligarchs in Eastern Europe, or the oligarchs in, Asia, and like, for example, in China, we don't say, well, they're kind of wasting money. They're, they're hitting that expense card a little too hard. No, they're plundering. They're stealing. I mean, this is out and out theft. This is out and out highway robbery. This is, we are going to loot, we're going to pillage, we're going to steal, and we're going to give it to ourselves. We're going to give it to our children, to our nephews, to our nieces, to our friends, our cronies. This is our money. We should not have with the money that we spend, not a single homeless veteran, not a single homeless American, not a single illegal should be into our country, not a single pothole, not a single bad bridge. I mean, the money that has been stolen, $2.7 trillion, that's just in Treasury alone. That's why Elon has been saying, he goes, brace yourselves. You are not going to believe how much of our wealth has been squandered. He says, I'm choosing my words carefully. This is a criminal organization. It's criminal. Heads are going to roll. People are going to have to go to jail. Anthony, I love Trump. I love what he's doing. I back him not 100, but 1,000%. But if this doesn't end in serious criminal prosecutions of some of the most high-ranking corrupt Democrats in the country, then honestly, we're just wasting everybody's time. Final word to you, Anthony.
Jeff, I couldn't disagree with anything you said. I'll leave you with this. We got the guy in the White House that not only survived 2 assassination attempts, 2 impeachments, bankruptcy, over 700 years in federal prison. He won back the White House. He did it with the majority of people in the United States. And you know what? I agree with everything you're saying. It's got to result in accountability. But he's the guy to do it. I'm putting my faith and trust in him. And Jeff, you know what? It's him. It's Musk. It's all of us. And I think he's going to get it done.
You're right. No, it's all of us. We all got to do it now. And we're going to do it. We're going to save our country, but we're going to have to do it. Anthony, outstanding. Dynamite call. Truly dynamite call. 617-266-6868. Now, I don't know if you managed to see the game yesterday or not, but Trump got an incredibly warm reception. First time a president has actually gone to the Super Bowl to see it live. Trump did. It was a huge security problem. It was very hard. It was a security challenge, but they did it. They kept him safe. But when his face and his image showed up on the Jumbotron, the crowd erupted in cheers and support. The American people are with Trump. 719 on the break, WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this broke, just so that you know, there's so much news now coming, it's almost impossible to keep up with it. Obviously, I'm going to keep up with the most important parts of it to keep you informed. And look, really, in a nutshell, okay? In a nutshell, here is the scandal, the Doge scandal. Whether you're retired now or working now, it doesn't matter. If you have paid taxes in your life, you're looking at, if you're lucky, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 has been stolen from you by our own government and either given to illegals or to frauds or fraudulent organizations or to grifters or whatever, or laundered and given to the children of politicians or the politicians themselves. That your money has been stolen. And I don't mean 100 here or 1,000 here. We're looking at 50 in total now, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 per person. For others, it could be hundreds, if not millions, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. Again, it depends on how much you pay taxes. That's the scale now of the theft, the embezzlement, the money laundering, everything that Elon, and that's, again, we're still not even close to the end of this. To give you an example, Elon now says the Doge team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week. 59 mil. Just last week. To luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. Now, as Elon put it, okay? This is what, as Elon put it, this is in violation of the law. It is in violation of the law, and it is in violation of the president's clear executive order. So you have now elements of the government, elements of FEMA that are refusing to comply with the law. It's illegal now to send FEMA money to anyone but American citizens in need. Not only are they continuing to send money to illegals, but they're continuing to send them money to stay at 5-star hotels. In direct defiance of the law, in direct defiance of President Trump's own executive order. Now, what's happening is this. We're starting to see rogue elements of our government. That's what we're starting to see now. Departments are going rogue. Agencies are going rogue. They believe that they're independent of the president, of the voters, of elections, and of the will of the American people. That's clearly now what they're revealing. This is an insurrection. The real insurrection. A true insurrection. Now, I think what needs to be done, you may disagree with me, But Trump now has to assert full control over the executive branch. Any FEMA employee caught funneling money to illegals and luxury hotels, fired on the spot. On the spot. And if they broke any laws, throw them in jail. Anyone without a social security number or a temporary ID identification number who has been receiving social security checks, my friends, that's fraud. That's theft. And many of them have been taking these checks for decades. Now you know why the Democrats have been pushing so hard in all of these big cities, like Boston, like New York, like Atlanta, like Chicago, like LA. It all makes sense now that illegals be given fraudulent social security numbers. Because it's not enough to give them welfare, and it's not enough to give them Section 8, and it's not enough to give them free health care and free education. No. Now we got to give them social security checks. That was a crime, a fraud perpetrated upon the American people. Trace the money all the way back to the person who got the check. That person now has to pay back the American taxpayer, and they should go to jail. They've been robbing us of our own money. Completely enabled by the Democrats and the media. Everybody knew what was going on, and everybody played stupid. So if I'm President Trump, I'm sorry, man. It's time to take the gloves off. You're in a war with the swamp. The swamp is already... Look, whether we like the term or not, and whether we like the reality or not, the reality is the swamp has declared war on us. In fact, they've been declaring war on us now for decades. It's about time now we declare war on them. Because the only money that's being stolen is ours. Now you know why the politicians are so rich. Now you know why their children are so rich. Now you know why Washington fights with such tenacity and viciousness. Whenever you try to add just a little bit of accountability and a little bit of transparency to the trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions that are sloshing around in Washington, D.C. And so Elon Musk, in a matter of weeks, has exposed the entire rotten, corrupt, venal system. And so my question now to you, honestly, very simply, should we be giving our hard-earned tax money to pay for the Social Security, the pension checks of people who are in our country illegally, who don't even have a freaking Social Security number? Should we be giving them disability payments? Should we be giving them $27 million in gift bags? 7:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a lot of reaction to this news coming in. Just so that you know, another mini scandal now broke over the weekend. Elon Musk found they gave $27 million, taxpayer money, in gift bags to illegals. You know, little gift bags, welcome to the United States. And so they gave them like these little, Target cards and restaurant cards and chocolates and, got all sorts of stuff. Yep. Our people are going hungry. But no. They got to get they got to get their gift bags. They've got to get their gift bags. Now, I just want to read this because this is a really, really good text. You can text us 70470. This is from 603. Jeff, all the waste, fraud, and abuse has been allowed to take place deliberately because it serves a purpose and there's an end game. That end game can be summed up in two words, or more accurately, two names: Cloward and Piven. You can't overwhelm and collapse a system this large and strong without enabling unspeakably massive waste, fraud, and abuse. And you can't carry out the Cloward and Piven strategy without having throngs of corrupt, treasonous, disloyal scumbags who are all willing to sell out their own country for 30 or even 30 million measly pieces of silver, and are too stupid to realize that if and when this ship goes down, they go down with it, and all that ill-gotten gain will be all but worthless. Bingo. This is Cloward and Piven. This is the Cloward and Piven strategy being executed to an absolute T. And that's why the numbers are this massive, this big. The corruption is this rampant and this rife. And as Elon is telling us, we're still not even where the big money is. Okay, just very, very quickly, on the FEMA story about how they've now just found that $59 million now, just last week, in violation of Trump's executive order, in violation of the law, that FEMA now has been illegally sending $59 million to luxury five-star hotels in New York City to house illegal aliens, illegal migrants. This is from 508. Jeff, the establishment is now naked. Doesn't it make your blood boil that the very same people who said FEMA was out of money, sorry, you and regular American citizens, you might get your $750 check if you live in a disaster area like North Carolina or East Palestine or Hawaii, the Hawaiian fire victims. Thank God Trump and Elon are finding the waste, and they can make sure federal disaster money goes to victims in California, North Carolina, and other states. Well, look, this is what is sickening. There's no money for people in California to rebuild, or Hawaii, or obviously from Hurricane Helene in North Carolina. Remember that? We ran out of money. But now they just found another $59 million for illegals in New York City, staying at at the Sheraton, staying at five-star hotels. Just treat me like an illegal. This is an incredible betrayal of American citizens and American taxpayers. And that's why I believe that this steamroller it's invincible. The truth now is on Trump's side and Elon's side. And the judges may try to block their access. They're trying to obstruct justice, stonewall, cover up, clearly to destroy evidence. That there's no question they're trying to destroy evidence. They don't want the money trail to lead to the politicians. That's what they're really afraid of. And I believe in the end, Elon will get him. Trump and Elon together, the dynamic duo, are going to get him. Fingers crossed. But we've got to help him every step of the way. So let me ask you, are you shocked at the massive extent of the corruption? Are you shocked at how much of your own money now has been stolen? And are we looking now at a tsunami of a scandal that will bring down the political establishment, the Democratic Party, the entire fake news media complex? Are we now looking at a scandal truly of historic, almost biblical proportions? Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Michael in Somerville. Thanks for holding, Michael, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How are you, Michael?
Good, Jeff. First of all, my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael.
Okay, I am a 58-year-old man. For the past 25 years, I've worked 2+ jobs, paid my taxes just like every other American. About 18 months ago, I was diagnosed with throat cancer.
Ugh.
I am on the mend. Things are looking good.
Good.
I have exhausted all my savings because I was unable to work during treatment as a truck driver delivering the Teamsters Union. I am unable to get benefits. It's better, but the doctors for the disability insurance people have had my paperwork for 121 days, and I have yet to have a decision made. Thank God for my family, who I'm the youngest of 6, who has always given me money over the past year when I needed it. Without them, I don't know where I'd be. But this sickens me, all this fraud and abuse. And me, as a 58-year-old man who has paid his taxes, cannot get a dime. I am thinking, honestly, I know this is a selfish call, but I think it ties into the fraud. I'm honestly thinking about sending a letter to the administration, telling them my situation.
Well, first of all, it's not selfish. I don't know why you consider it selfish. You work hard, you pay taxes, you do 2 jobs, you pay taxes so that when you have a crisis like throat cancer, and I'm very happy you're on the mend. Honestly, Michael, to me, that's the most important news of everything, is that you're back, getting better, because throat cancer killed my mother-in-law. So I know it's a very serious disease. You don't play with throat cancer. So I'm very happy you're getting better, and I hope you make a full and complete recovery. To me, that's all that matters. But no, Michael, why? I don't understand. Why is that selfish? You pay and you pay and you pay. First of all, you pay for others. You pay for roads. You pay for the military. You pay for schools, which is fine. That's your duty as a citizen. But you also pay to make sure that when you have a personal or financial or health crisis, that you have some social assistance. That's what you're paying for. Well, again, the government betrayed you. And I'm not trying to wind you up. Really, I'm just being brutally honest with you. If you had no social security number, you'd be getting a check. If you walked in and said, I'm an illegal alien, take care of me, they would have taken care of you. They would have put you on Medicaid. They would have given you free health care. They would have given you free cash, free food stamps, free welfare. They would have taken care of you. So I urge you, I can't promise that anything will happen, but I urge you, write a letter to President Trump, write a letter to the administration, and tell them this is my story. And tell them, look what Elon is discovering. $1 billion a week is going to people with no social security number, illegals. And they're getting disability checks, pensions, social security checks, and I'm on 4 months. And I've got throat cancer. And I can't get anybody to talk to me. If it wasn't for my family, I'd be finished. Where was my government when I needed them? Please write the letter. And I pray to God that you get a response. And more than that, I pray for you that you make a full and complete recovery. And please, demanding your benefits that you've worked for, you're owed those benefits. Don't ever call them selfish. You worked for them. You paid for them. They're owed to you. The only ones that should be ashamed is the government. Okay? They're the ones who should be ashamed, not you. Michael, thank you very much for that call, and may God bless you. 617-266-6868 is the number. A lot more to come. Don't touch that dial. 749 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in his pre-Super Bowl interview yesterday President Trump was asked by Fox News' Brett Boring, as I like to call him, that he's getting a lot of pushback, and that's putting it mildly. And in particular, the case over the weekend of Judge Engelmeyer, a corrupt Obama hack, who now issued an incredible injunction, a constitutional absurdity, really a joke, whereby he's now claiming that the President of the United States is not in control of the executive branch, cannot audit his own executive branch, cannot even have access to data within his executive branch, in this case the Treasury Department, showing all of these fraudulent payments of $100 billion a year, every year, going back decades. And that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, also can't access the the data within his own department. Never mind Doge and Elon, who answer to both Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and of course President Trump. And then giving the further order to destroy all of the evidence that has been amassed and accumulated by Musk, Doge, and his team of auditors and investigators. And this was all initially spurred by 19 Democrat state attorneys general who filed a lawsuit to basically to say Trump has no control over his own executive branch, Treasury has no control over its own department, and Elon Musk, well, how dare he collect data showing all of this corruption. $100 billion have gone out for 2 decades every year to people, Social Security, disability, other checks, to people with no social insurance number, no Social Security number, nothing, not even a temporary ID number. It's gone to illegals, overwhelmingly, grifters, cons, fraudsters, and dead people. Roll cut 2, Mike.
Some of your plays have raised some questions and had some pushbacks. 19 states attorneys general filed a lawsuit, and early Saturday, a judge agreed with them to restrict Elon Musk and his government efficiency team, Doge, from accessing Treasury Department payment and data systems. They said there was a risk of irreparable harm. What do you make of that? And does that slow you down on what you want to do?
No, I disagree with it 100%. I think it's crazy, and we have to solve the efficiency problem. We have to solve the fraud, waste, abuse, all the things that have gone in the government. You take a look at the USAID, the kind of fraud in there, that where the money's going.
I mean, it could cause irreparable harm. Yes, to the Democrats. Yes. Yes, to the sleazy politicians and their kids. Yes, to the corrupt crooks on the take. You better believe it could cause irreparable harm. I mean, seriously. I mean, you can't make this up. So Trump is saying, hey, look, we're not going to stop. This is a ridiculous ruling. And then he says, look at some of the stuff we're finding. Why aren't the Democrats outraged about all the corruption? Notice, they're just outraged at the 2 people, me and Elon, who are exposing all of this corruption. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
Well, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's going to places where it shouldn't be going, where if I read a list, you'd say this is ridiculous, and you've read the same lists, and there are many that you haven't even seen. It's crazy. It's a big scam. Now, there's some good money, and we can do that through any one of a number. I think I'd rather give it to Marco Rubio over at the State Department. Let him take care of the few good ones. So I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Now, notice, both Elon and Trump, this is now with increasing frequency now, they're laying the groundwork They're saying, look, the resistance here from these politicians, Democrats, Democrat members of Congress, Democrat senators, is so rabid, it's so hysterical, it's so over the top that we're telling you, get ready, there are kickbacks involved. They're on the take. Bribery, kickbacks. This is going to bring down a lot of politicians. So they're starting to prepare the public that all of this leads back to the swamp and it leads back to the ruling class. Now, to the uniparty, to Democrats and many rhinos. They're saying, don't be surprised if politicians now get ensnared. Now, Brett Boring pushes on about, but do you trust Elon? Darth Vader? Maybe the real Hitler in the administration? And listen to Trump's response. Roll cut to B, Mike.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this.
There you go. Basically, he's saying, I'm not backing away from Elon. And now they are signaling now that they're going to move eventually and soon on the Department of Education to show you how worried the Democrats are. They know how filthy dirty it is. They know there's a lot of, proverbial dead bodies, i.e. massive caches of corruption, money that has been so misused and so misspent, and so many kickbacks and so much money laundering going on for decades at the Department of Education. It's a huge boondoggle. 30 of them, led by Maxine Waters, on Friday, 30 Democrat members of Congress. There's no other word. It was an insurrection. They charged the Department of Education, and they demanded to break in, and they had to put a security guard outside, lock the doors, and say, we're not letting you in unless you have an appointment with the acting director or the acting secretary. Then I'm sorry, you have to have an appointment. We just can't let anybody come in. This is the executive branch. Members of Congress don't just get to walk in willy-nilly. And they humiliated this guard. Maxine Waters ridiculed him, made fun of him. Others did as well. They threatened him with his job. They said if he knows what's good for him, he's going to let them in. It was a despicable performance, but they stormed the building and they wanted to storm inside. And basically their goal was to occupy it. They wanted to occupy it so that to prevent the Department of Education from handing over financials and statements and payments to Doge and to Elon Musk. What did you know and when did you know it? What are you so afraid of? If everything was above board and all the payments were proper, what are you so afraid of an audit? I'll tell you what they're afraid of. Just like in the Treasury Department, just like in USAID, just everywhere else that Elon has been looking, you are going to see hundreds of billions of dollars that was supposed to go to educate our children go into the pockets of Democrats, consultants, and their children. And God knows what else they're going to find. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jake in Gloucester. Thanks for holding, Jake, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Jake.
Jeff, you exposed everything very nicely this morning. However, you and me and thousands of people can talk and talk and talk until the cows come home. And like you said, and you brought this up earlier, if we don't start seeing real prosecutions very shortly, it's all for naught. This whole corruption thing does not shock me at all, Jeff. Go back to 2008. For the past 12 out of 16 years, the Democrats have controlled the presidency, which means appointing judges. Do you realize how many of these judges were appointed by Obama? His goal was to appoint hundreds of left-wing radical judges, and that's who the Democrats turn to every time there's a crisis that they're going to be exposed. I'm watching Jim Jordan yesterday. I'm watching James Comer, and I'm saying to myself, after all this corruption and the amounts that have been stolen from us, the American taxpayer, they talk a good game. Jim Jordan was on your show last year, I think twice. But you know something? He doesn't do anything. Nothing is done. It's all talk, talk, talk. James Comer just wrote a book. Fine. Write a book to expose Biden's corruption. What does that do for us? Nobody is held accountable. Dozens and dozens and dozens of Republican congressmen. Where were they when this money was being spent? Did they expose this massive corruption from you and me and millions of American taxpayers? It took Trump to come in to start exposing this and Elon Musk. Jeff, part of this corruption, and I guarantee you some of this money was filtered to Jeffrey Epstein. How did that guy get so wealthy without all those connections? And you just exposed it. Many of these congressmen are going to be exposed, and they don't want to be. The corruption is much more massive than you're outlining today. That's why nobody in Congress is really exposing. If you get to the heart and the meat of the matter, it's all fluff. It's all talk. And where were these people? How did this money get through Congress? I always thought, and I was taught that the Constitution, Congress had the House of Representatives mainly had the power of the purse. How does billions and maybe trillions of dollars get through this illegally? How do people fatten their wallets without the American public knowing? All these bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats who are running the government, how do they get so wealthy? Mitch McConnell how do these people get so wealthy? So I'm watching Jim Jordan, and I'm saying, it's the same thing. Why does he have this reputation as a guy that gets things done? What has he done? And I mean people like him in Congress, James Comer and the rest of the Republican congressmen. What have they done to actually stop this corruption? Guess what, Jeff? Nothing. Nothing. It's taken Elon Musk and Donald Trump to try to bring some sense into this, and Trump only has 4 years. And unless he steers somebody like J.D. Vance or maybe Ted Cruz or one of the really smart Republican congressmen or senators, they're going to lose in 4 years because, you know, the American people, 70 million people voted for Harris. So the Democratic Party is not dead. They're just doubling down on their corruption. They're just already, Jeff, and you and I spoke about this. I told you last year, if Trump wins, within 2 weeks, they're going to file articles of impeachment, whether they hold the House or not. We don't have a big enough majority in the House to stop this. They're going to keep filing articles of impeachment. So the whole song and dance never stops. So where are these people exposed? How did this money get through Congress, Jeff? This is what I want to know. How did billions and billions and trillions of dollars spent on corruption? It's just maddening and amazing to me how that happens, and nobody has spoken out. Is that because of the 1,500 pages of budget that nobody wants to go through? I don't understand it, how this happens.
Well, no, Jake, look, you put your finger on it. For corruption to thrive, the politicians have to be corrupt. And the reason why nobody does anything is because they're corrupt. They're tainted in some way, shape, or form. Now, look, as someone who covered politics for over a decade at the Washington Times, you know, I oversaw their White House and congressional coverage. I was horrible, and this was much better then. This was under the Bush years. The Bush years and the first Obama term. It was bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not this. Okay, this. I mean, this is a different level. But Grace and I would have conversations almost every night, like, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what we said then. I remember when I filled in for Michael Savage, I would say this over and over again. I said, if all of you knew what they really did in this town, I said, I said, honest to God, there would be a revolution. I don't say that a figurative revolution. You would pick up your pitchforks and say, out, throw all the bums out. Now that was then. It's gotten much worse now. So what you realize is, look, this is the moment you work in Washington and you have a semblance of dignity and integrity and patriotism, okay? I'm not saying you're some Mr. Virtuous or Mrs. Virtuous, but you have some sense of, I believe in the Constitution, I believe in this great republic, I believe in the taxpayer. I believe that, politicians should do their job as elected representatives with dignity and honor and some integrity. So if you start with that, and it's a bordello. There's no other word. I'm sorry. It's a whorehouse. Everybody's for sale. Everybody's on the take. Jim Jordan makes a lot of noise, but never does anything because Jim Jordan is corrupt. That's why. That's what I ended up learning about him. He's all talk and no action. Why? Because they got him. I don't know what they got him on, but they got something on him. That's for sure. They don't do anything. See, what they do is it's a performance art. He will bang at these committee meetings and bang the table and get all outraged and he rolls up his sleeves but then you say, but what has he done? Nothing. Now, why is it Trump and Elon? Just stand back. Why? Elon is the wealthiest man in the world. If anyone is going to become a trillionaire, it's going to be him. So he doesn't need the money. Like he just really, you throw $1 billion at him, he's not interested. Throw 10 billion. He says, I got so much money. I don't know how I'm going to spend my money. So you can't buy him. And he is a South African immigrant. He chose to be an American. When you choose to be an American, it's like, a lot of legal immigrants say that. I'm an American by choice. In other words, I came here because it is the best place on earth. And we don't want it never to be not the best place on earth. So he sees this and he's like, and he said this over and over again, if America falls, where do we go next? There's nowhere else to go. So Elon is the one that says we've got to do this. And Trump, who's a billionaire himself. And he's like, look, I made my money. I don't need more money. I've got enough money. So I'm not interested in whatever you want to buy me with. So is that what it takes now? It takes two, fabulously wealthy billionaires. But that's, when I was in Washington, let me tell you, every day that I came into work, I kept thinking, this is the only analogy. This is the modern day Rome of the Roman Empire. I didn't feel city upon a hill, this is America, the old American Republic. There's too much power, too much money, too much influence, too much temptation, too many lobbyists, and everybody, even if you come in with the most sincerest intentions, the place just wears you down. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's the problem in Washington. And that's why I'm with Trump. Get rid of the Department of Education. We don't need it. We don't need it. Get rid of USAID. We don't need it. Just start dismantling we don't need it. Fire people in big numbers. Start decentralizing power. Start breaking up Washington and return power and money back to the people. And that's going to be his mission. And I'm telling you, it's a race against the clock because it's a war. He and the swamp are now in a life-death struggle. So the people that you can count that are genuine patriots who are not on the take, one hand, maybe two hands if you're lucky. That's out of 535 members. I can't even tell you it's 35. I can't even say to you, okay, 500 are dirty, but 35 are good. Okay, at least it's something. If it's 10, we're lucky. So that's why Trump's got a short window. He's got a lot of popularity. He won his mandate. That's why he's striking now while he can. Because he's not a fool. In fact, he even said it. If you want, I'll play you the cut with Brett Baer. He said, what's the difference between this term and the first term? He goes, no, the first term, I was a guy from New York. He goes, I didn't know Washington. I didn't know most of the players. I was a political newcomer. So I trusted people that people said I should trust. And I ended up getting burned again and again. And he said, I ended up realizing they're dirty. I thought because they were Republicans, we'd all be rowing in the same direction. No, they were there to sabotage and undercut me. Well, it took me 4 years, but I learned. Now, this is my presidency, my administration, my personnel, my people. And, I mean, look, Elon has been a stroke of genius. Tom Homan, borders are stroke of genius. Outside the box and keep the swamp on their heels. All I can say to President Trump is, go, baby, go. Don't stop. Uncover it all. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are jammed. Mark in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
My man, how's it going, buddy?
Very good, Mark. How are you, my friend?
I am surrounded by 2 feet of climate change, and I love it. It's, I have to say, Jeff, you're talking about this whole Social Security thing. A couple of quick things, right? First thing I would do is find out who entered these people into the system. That alone is fraud. Putting people in knowing they don't have Social Security numbers. You're aiding and abetting the commission of a felony by entering them into the system just to start with. So those people need to be fired, prosecuted, hung in the public square, not figuratively, of course, because I'm not some right-wing extremist, But then, so I would start with that. I would fire every one of those people that entered those names in, knowing that they were fraudulent. And then you were talking about how they didn't classify these payments. Well, I think there's something in the news maybe a few months ago about a guy that classified an expense incorrectly and faced 34 felony counts and like 300 years in jail for $150,000.
That's right.
How about billions of dollars? What kind of felonies can we bring up on those people for not even classifying their expenses? And then the last thing, Jeff, you talk about the states suing for this. You got to look at why, though, Jeff. Every state gets money from SSA for their disability offices and their Social Security offices because the states pay for those offices, Jeff. That money comes out of the general budget of each and every state, and the state gets reimbursed by the federal government for all that money. You think they're not padding that? There are closed offices in the state of Massachusetts, Jeff, that they still get money for. Even if they're not using them, they still get money for them. That's a gravy train, Jeff, for this state, because it comes out of the general fund.
Mark, I'm just curious, when you look at the staggering amounts now, we're not talking $1 million here or $10 million here. Look, every dollar wasted is a scandal to me. Don't get me wrong. But, we're not talking peanuts, as they used to say. We're talking now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions. Elon says if you just start backtracking this, he goes, we're looking at about maybe $2.7 trillion. That's just in fraudulent payments. He goes, we haven't even gotten to Medicare, Medicaid, and the other entitlements. So that means what? We've been spending over $2 trillion in Social Security and disability checks to illegals or to dead people whose family members someone is collecting. And everybody turned a blind eye. And the Democrats knew and did nothing. And many Republicans knew and did nothing. Mark, are heads going to roll? Do heads need to roll?
I think without a doubt, Jeff, heads have to roll. The question is, do the Republicans have the spine to actually do it? Will they actually get in there and fire all these people? Will they get in there and will they press charges? I don't doubt that Bondi will go after people, but, Congress has to do its job, Jeff. They have to get in there and put an end to this crap. And how many of them have the stomach to actually do it? And how many of them are involved in it that are getting kickbacks whose families are benefiting from it? I think that's our biggest problem is how deep does this entire thing go?
And I think the war, it's like peeling an onion. I think the more we peel, the more layers we take off, the deeper and rotter it gets. It gets more rotten, it gets deeper. And I think that's where we're headed. I think there's going to be a point where I think the American people are going to say, this is enough. I mean, really, this is enough. So we'll see, Mark. But this scandal is only beginning to explode. Mark, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. When you read something like this, how bad, how extreme, how rampant, you almost feel raped. I mean, economically, obviously. I mean, this is what we've been spending, working so hard, and we pay all this money in taxes, and this is where so much of our money went to? It's unconscionable. Unconscionable. Derek in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Derek, and welcome.
You doing? I agree with what Elon Musk and Trump are doing as far as doing this audit on finding out where this money's going. My question is, how come Trump just can't ignore this judge's ruling like Biden did when he was trying to forgive them student loans, to buy votes? How come Trump just doesn't move along with doing this audit and say, the hell with what this...
Derek, I agree with you. That's what I've been urging him to do. Look, if Joe Biden can ignore the Supreme Court of the United States when they blocked his student loan program, then Trump should tell this judge, go 832 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Also, a quick reminder to everyone, Kuhner Country, listen to the new iHeartRadio app with preset buttons. You can set the app to play the Kuhner Report automatically. Okay, one of the big issues that the Democrats now are harping on is, well, who's Elon? I don't trust Elon. Why should Elon have access to all of this data and payment systems at the Treasury Department? So listen now to this exchange between Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, and Dana Bash from CNN, where Dana Bash is saying, this is a violation of privacy. Elon's acting like he runs and controls the whole government. No one is safe from Elon. Roll cut 15, Mike. 15, 1-5, Mike.
Elon Musk and his team to have access to Americans' personal data that is housed inside DHS?
We're working with them at the president's direction to find what we can do to make our department much more efficient. So I think it's important. This is essentially an audit of the federal government, which is very powerful and needs to have happen. That agency, and one of the things I've been very clear to the appropriators in the Senate and the House is please give me the authority to reprogram funds. There's
right,
funds
but that's different from him having access to personal data that is housed
in... The president has auzed him to have access.
And you feel
to
comfortable?
So absolutely.
I remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust the government anymore.
Having access to personal data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the public.
Elon Musk has access to it.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is part of the administration that is helping us identify where we can find savings.
I mean, look at this. But Elon Musk has access to all this data. I thought you Republicans, you feared access to data. I remember a time when you Democrats didn't give a damn about accessing people's data. In fact, you've never given a damn. Obama spied on us, millions and millions of us. You didn't give a damn. Joe Biden spied on millions of us. You didn't give a damn. There was data breach after data breach. You didn't give a damn. By the way, just so that you look it up, don't take my word for it. Communist China had full access to the Treasury Department data and payment system under Joe Biden. Did Donna Bash, was she freaking out that China had all this access? No. Did the Democrats freak out? No. But they're acting like, but it's Elon. Who cares? He's working under the clear discretion and authorization of President Trump and the Secretary of the Treasury. And I want to stress this to all of you. The argument now that the media is trying to make, to show you how preposterous this is, the President of the United States cannot audit the federal executive branch? Remember, the Treasury Department is an agency of the executive branch. All the USAID, federal agency, is part of the executive branch. So the president cannot audit his own executive branch? As I said, look it up, Article 2 of the Constitution. The president doesn't just run the executive branch. He is the executive branch. Well, Jeff, what does that mean in plain English? In plain English, everybody who's a federal employee of any agency works for the President of the United States, ultimately. So the President can't access data in his own executive branch, in his own Treasury Department? In what planet? The one that really blows my mind away, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, can't access data and payment systems in his own department? Are you effing serious? That's why this order, this injunction by this judge is a joke. That's why what the media is pushing is, we have a constitutional crisis. Separation of powers is being violated by Donald Trump. No, the ones that are violating it is you. And here, my friends, we get to the heart of the matter. Okay? This is the heart of the matter. Under our system of government, and what I'm going to lay out for you now in the next 2 minutes is the essence of the war between the swamp and Trump and Elon. And it's really the essence of the war between the deep state, the media, and the Democrats against the American people. What is this war? Here it is. The Constitution clearly specifies that there are 3 branches of government, separation of powers. Okay, checks and balances. The executive branch, the legislative branch, and of course the judiciary. What the Democrats are now trying to argue, and in fact, they've been pushing this for 100 years, it's finally culminating, is that no. Now that Trump is in power, there's not 3 branches of government. There's really 4 branches of government. You have the judiciary, you have the legislative, you have the executive, but now they're inventing an entire 4th branch, the administrative state. If you look at what they've been doing now, it started with FDR, it built with Lyndon Johnson, it keeps getting stronger and stronger. But now under the first Trump presidency and now his second presidency, here is what the media and the Democrats are trying to claim. That the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, he may be the president, he may be the commander-in-chief, but he has no power or no authority over any part of the executive branch. He can't decide what money is spent on USAID. No. He can't even audit USAID. No. He can't audit the Treasury Department. No. He can't audit the Pentagon. No. In other words, he has no control over the entire executive branch. Well then, who runs the executive branch? Shazam! The administrative state. So, what they're trying to claim now is that these massive federal agencies, whether it's the Defense Department, whether it's foreign aid, USAID, whether it's just run down the line, these massive Treasury and the payments, whether it be Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, NSA, CIA. No. These are agencies independent of the president. Even though they're an executive branch, it doesn't matter. They're independent of the president. They're also independent of Congress. Congress gives them money, and then they do what the hell they want with the money, i.e. the shadow government. And so this is now what they're trying. This is a revolution in our Constitution. It's a revolution in our government. It's a revolution in everything America has stood for. So what they are now trying to claim is that the president now is at the mercy of the administrative state. They tell him what the CIA can or can't do. They tell him, you can't fire James Comey. You can't fire anybody at the FBI. You can't fire inspector generals. In other words, well, so the president serves the administrative state. Yes. So we have a shadow government, a permanent administrative state that is unaccountable to the people, unaccountable to Congress, unaccountable to the president, unaccountable to anybody. Because they believe it does the work of the swamp. That's the point. Now, what Trump is saying and what Elon is saying, and I'm telling you they're going to win in the Supreme Court because they're 1,000% on solid constitutional ground. No. The CIA works for me. The FBI works for me. USAID works for me. The Treasury Department works for me. Every federal agency employee in the executive branch works for the president. This is now a war, not just between the swamp and Musk and Trump, but between Trump, Musk, and the administrative state. And it's been a long time. 850 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. So, Democrats, the media, libs in general, oh my God, I'm so petrified Elon Musk has access to all this information, and data at the Treasury Department and payment systems and which checks are going to who. Do you care? Like, are you afraid of Elon Musk? Whether it's Elon or somebody, you know, some Democrat hack making $40,000 a year, and that's generally what it is, or it's China or whoever, I'm not afraid of Elon having access to all of this information. What I'm afraid of is where all the freaking money has been going and how you have these corrupt judges and Democrats who are trying to desperately destroy the evidence, cover it up, and engage in obstruction of justice and stonewalling. That, to me, is the bigger issue. Our money, my money, is being stolen. Our money is being stolen. And you're going on to me about Elon having access to the payment system? Well, yeah, he's got it. He needs the data and the payment system to track the fraud. Hello? How else are you going to do an audit? So, to me, no, I don't care. And by the way, it's 2 employees. That's not even Elon. It's 2 employees on Doge with read-only functions. So they can't do anything to anyone's data. They're just there to audit and to follow the cash, follow the payments, follow the money. So, are you afraid of Elon having that kind of access? CNN is losing their hair. I say they're afraid of what the money is going to show. Agree, disagree. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Musk and Trump don't have to worry because they've got the Lord on their side. The other scumbags, they ain't got the devil on their side. But this is what I want to tell you, Jeff. You know that I get a thing from AARP every month. You know what it is? These 3 people are going to save Social Security, that you have to send them cash. You know who they are? Warren, Stephen Lynch, and Markey. They're going to protect your Social Security. And I ran into an elderly lady. I see her in church. She's in Stop and Shop. She's buying bread, the cheapest bread that I give to my birds and squirrels in my backyard. I asked her, how much do you get in Social Security? She said she lives on $800. But you know what? She told me I started talking about, you know, getting this from AARP. She's a member also. She said that she sends Warren $50 a month from that 800. I said, are you crazy? She's got $67 million in the bank.
When you said that to her, Jimmy, what was her response?
Because I gave her $10 and I told her to get the better loaves of bread because she has real bad arthritis. I see her once in a while in church, Jeff. She almost went into tears. That's what these scumbags have done to these elderly people. She doesn't know better. She's afraid that if she doesn't give it a 50, they're not going to have their Social Security. That's the scam they're pulling on the elderly.
You know, I saw the same thing with my dad when he was alive. He had bad Parkinson's then. This was, maybe 7-8 years ago now. Please don't quote me, Jimmy. But this was up in Canada. Obviously, I was visiting him, and Justin Trudeau, that scumbag, was going on that if they call them Tories, if the Conservatives, but they go by Tories, that if the Tories win, they're gonna cut all the health care for senior citizens. And my dad then, Parkinson's, he was ravaged, he wasn't the same man. And I said, Dad, who are you voting for? He goes, I'm voting for Justin Trudeau. I'm like, Dad, why? He's like, because the Tories they're gonna cut my health care. I'm a senior citizen, I'm sick. They're gonna cut health care for senior citizens. Dad, I said, they're not gonna cut health care for senior citizens. Trudeau is just trying to scare the elderly. He's just trying to scare you, Dad. Are you serious? You honestly think the conservatives never cut anything? But let that go. They're not going to cut health care for senior citizens. Okay, Dad? Please, trust me. Okay? I'm your son. I would never lie to you. Nope. He was so convinced, Jimmy. There he was, pulled a lever for Justin Trudeau. And the garbage quality care that he got at that nursing home, I wouldn't put my Rocky in it. I wouldn't put a dog in that. Never mind my father. So that's what the left does, whether it's in this country or in Canada or in other countries. They frighten senior citizens. It's beyond disgusting and repulsive. Final word to you, Jimmy.
Jeff, for being there for all these people and for being for Trump. And I'm hoping one day you could get one of your colleagues, either, what's his name, John B. Wells, or what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Wells and what's his name? You studied under him. He was a doctor.
Michael Savage. Yes, Michael. Yeah.
Yes.
He's got his own show on Newsmax now, by the way. A weekend show.
Your program, because you're in the class with him and John B. Wells, Jeff.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it. Jimmy, as always, great call. Thank you so much, and thank you for looking after that old lady. You did the right thing. You know, I mean, I know she shouldn't be giving $50 a month of her check to Elizabeth Warren. I mean, that's what I mean. That's sad. That's just really sad. 6-1, yeah. Oh, yeah. She's going to save your Social Security, right? 617-266-6868 is the number. William in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, William, and welcome.
Hi.
Hi, William.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner. First thing I'd like to say is long-time listener, and I'd like to say my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you.
And I love you.
William.
Non-sexual way. Had to get that out.
Thank you.
I'd like to discuss the issues of everything that is going on, but I'm going to sum it up very quickly. At 56 years old, I was a truck driver up until 2019, hit by a 16-year-old forced into disability. Long story short, here we are 5 years later after learning how to walk, talk, and continue with life, still disabled, can't lift over 10 pounds. And I'm saying to myself, listening to all this corruption, I'm putting two and two together and saying, well, they cut my Medicaid. So now I'm paying for medical and I'm paying for doctors. Hey, I get it. Everyone pays their dues. I can't lift over 10 pounds. Also take care of my wife, who is a complete human erector set. Multiple neck surgeries, back surgeries. I'm basically held together by cables and plates. Now, today at 10:30, I'm going to go to Workforce, Rhode Island, because I don't have a choice. I can't afford life. And I'm looking at these people, $59 million. I'm looking at everything that I'm seeing and hearing. And all I can pray for at this point is that Mr. Elon Musk looks at Rhode Island and sends a microscope far up the State House. I would just like to see at one point in life, and before I leave this earth, I want to see at least those responsible for this debacle of the last 4 years and years prior to that, because my understanding is this actually all was a plan that was configured back in the 1960s along with PSYOPs. This is why we have transgenders. This is why we have people that don't know where they are in life, because they've all fallen into that little trap. It's sheeple is what I call them. I am looking at everything and saying to myself, if all these people did this, how are they still walking into a school department hearing, trying to get into a building? They're not welcome. And they were trying to get in. Why wouldn't they arrested then and there? I want to see arrest. I want accountability at the highest level. And why is it that at last minute, if Anthony Fauci, and mind you, I had jab, I got forced to take 2 and a booster. My wife and I have never been the same since. And I want to know How is it that if he's not guilty, why would he have to be pardoned? And what can be done to reverse all the pardons that Biden did to make it so we can just make it a lot easier to hold those accountable? This is what I want to know. You know,
well, William, look, you're asking a $64,000 question, and I think Elon would say to you, I'm not the enforcement arm. It's not that he's trying to pass the buck. Elon would say, look, I'm a financial guy. I'm a businessman. And Trump tapped me to use the most modern, financially advanced techniques in the private sector to root out corruption, money laundering, criminality, waste, fraud, and abuse. And I put together a crackerjack team, and we are uncovering it sector by sector, branch by branch, department by department. In the end, this is going to be up to Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, unless they keep trying to delay Kash Patel now. But let's say Kash Patel does get in. It's going to be up to the FBI. It is going to be up to the Department of Justice. And ultimately, it's going to be up to the Republicans in Congress. When your taxpayers, when your own citizens, forget being lied to, forget being deceived, when they have been stolen from, when they have been robbed blind, and that's what they've done to us, robbed us blind, are there going to be consequences? And to me, it starts, look, you know what? We'll get to the big fish. Let's start with the small fish. If you don't have a social security number, you are not entitled to a social security check. I'm sorry. It's just like the sky is blue. It's like saying 2 + 2 = 4. If you don't have a social security number, or forget that, even a temporary tax ID number, you are not entitled to a social security check. That's called fraud. That's called, I'm sorry, it's thievery. You're stealing. You're taking money you're not entitled to. You didn't work for it. You didn't pay taxes into it. You're not an American citizen. You're not entitled to the money. Instead, they've given $100 billion a year. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And it's gone mostly to illegals. Then they're saying, yes, and terrorist front groups. Oh, you're kidding. No, terrorist front groups have been getting checks. Scam artists who claim to be disabled, but they're not disabled. They're healthier than you. They're healthier than me. They're getting checks. So people with disabilities are being denied their claims because these guys have to line their pockets. Now, this should, you would think $100 billion a year, going back many decades, that is literally being stolen right underneath our nose. You think, well, that should unite Republicans and Democrats. If anything would unite us, this is it. Nope. Shut it down. We don't want people to know about it. Get Elon Musk out of here. Keep the checks going. Keep the disability payments going. Be deaf, blind, and dumb. To me, that's the real scandal. And then you got the judges now saying, no. Trump cannot audit his own executive branch. Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, cannot audit the Treasury Department. What? I said, that's like saying Congress can't pass a law. That's like saying, no, the Supreme Court can't issue a ruling. Like, what? Because they're that desperate now to cover up the corruption. And frankly, to buy time to destroy evidence. And that's why, look, William, we're in a different level now. We're in a different time, in a different era. Look, whatever may have worked 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it doesn't work now. Trump needs to address the country and call out these judges and say, I am not going to abide by their rulings, period. if they're going to be this constitutionally absurd, this bizarre, this laughable, then they're making a mockery of our Constitution. They need to be impeached and disbarred immediately. Immediately. This is laughable on its face. So, and Elon, I'm telling you, Elon responded with fire and fury, saying the reason why these judges are blocking us, they're on the take. They're getting kickbacks, they're getting bribes. It's so obvious. There is no constitutional legal justification for what they're doing, except cover it up, cover it up, cover it up. So, William, look, this is what breaks my heart. You're entitled to your health payments. You're entitled to disability. You are an American citizen who paid into the system. The problem now is they've got to pinch pennies, deny claims. Why? Because they've given it all to the freaking illegals. And that's what we all warned. It's going to lead to massive bankruptcy. You can't bring in that many people and start giving out checks. And they're so greedy. Cash assistance, not enough. Welfare, not enough. Free clothes, computers, iPads, cell phone, not enough. Free healthcare, not enough. Free education, not enough. No, they got to put them now on Social Security. Listen, I'm going to go even further, okay? You can hold me to this. I will bet you the best steakhouse of the steakhouse of your choice. Okay, post-1917 steakhouse. Okay? Best steak at the post-1917 steakhouse. They're sending Social Security checks to people who aren't even 65 years old. I'll guarantee it. Guy's 35 years old, 40 years old. He's getting an illegal is getting a Social Security check. That's why there was no categorization payment code. That's why there's no comment on the side. They're just sending checks. They don't know where they're sending it to. There's no number beside them. There's no Social Security number. That's why Elon, his words, not mine, he goes, this is insane. He goes, do you understand? This is insane. Come on. This has got to be it. How is this not the biggest story? Forget the country, the world. They didn't just steal $5 from us, or took 20 out of our paycheck. They robbed all of us at a minimum to the tune of $50, $60, $70, $80, $100,000 over the last 10 years. And for most of us, a hell of a lot more. Now, if someone steals $100,000 from my bank account, because that's what they effectively did, taking my money and making out checks to people who had no right to get it, I want to know who the money went to. I want to know who authorized it. I want to know exactly where it went. And I want to get compensation. I want my money back. And I want the scam artists who were involved, I want them all to go to jail. And these people are talking about, Jeff, we've got to give amnesty to the illegals, Jeff. No, maybe not the violent criminal ones, but those that didn't commit violent crimes. Over my dead body. Over my dead body. And then these idiots up on Capitol Hill, well, we'll have them pay a fine. Well, how much the fine? $5,000. That's 2 Social Security checks. That's with our money. They're going to pay us back the fine with our money. Just like we're finding out now. George Soros he got $260 million in his own Open Society Foundation under USAID. So he's pouring all this money into these soft on crime progressive DAs. It's not even with his own money. It's with our money. The World Economic Forum, they meet every year. Billionaires flying in on private jets. It's obscene, okay? in Davos, Switzerland. Really, it's obscene. Who do you think pays for it? It all just came out. We pay for Davos. We pay for their planes, their flights, their gas, their food. A check goes to Klaus Schwab. Thank you. So, no, they're not paying a fine because that's what our money. No, you know what? You perpetrated a scam on the American taxpayer and the American people. Blank off. You're getting deported. Sorry, enough. Enough. My friends, they've been playing us for fools. And Donald Trump is right. He says, I campaigned on this. Keep going, Donald. Keep going. Because we need you to keep delivering on your campaign promise. I want the whole thing exposed. The whole thing. And then I want heads to roll. Honestly now, for the first time, I can't believe I'm saying this. God is my witness. Maybe we should keep the 87,000 IRS agents. Jeff, have you lost your mind? No. I want to go after all the illegals who've been cashing in these fraudulent checks. There's millions of them. 9:20 on the break, WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, blowing the lid off one of the biggest scandals in American history, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So let me ask all of you, what do you feel is going to happen next? What's the next shoe you fear is going to drop? Because that's now what everybody's bracing for. Trump now says he wants Elon to look at the Department of Education and to see how much money has been wasted, the level of fraud, the misappropriation of funds, the waste, fraud, and abuse that is there. Elon says, brace yourself. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be very hard to take. A lot of money has been literally squandered right down a rat hole. And it's lined many people's pockets, people close to the Democratic Party, people close to many Republicans, and their children. That you're going to see a lot of lucrative contracts, big contracts, sloshing around, lining the pockets of very powerful politicians. So, my question to you, are you shocked at what has been discovered so far? Do you fear more? And what is some of your biggest fear? And is Elon accumulating too much power? Are you afraid that he has two employees with access, read-only access, by the way, to Treasury Department data and the Treasury Department payment system? I say to conduct an audit, you got to have the tools to conduct an audit. An audit is not tyranny. It's accountability and transparency. But that's me. What say you? 617-266-6868. And let me ask all of you maybe the big question. Did you think it was going to be this bad? I'm going to be honest with you, and that's why you've been sensing the outrage all morning. I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Never in my wildest dreams. If you told me a year ago that the United States for decades has been wasting $100 million on Social Security payments, Social Security, and disability payments. People who are disabled, for God's sake. To illegal aliens, to people with no Social Security numbers, to complete fraudsters, dead people who somehow other people are collecting the checks. And that this has been going on for 20, 25 years. And people at Treasury just didn't give a damn. I say, come on, you're crazy. You're crazy. Well, no, I'm crazy. 617-266-6868. Rich in Natick. Thanks for holding, Rich, and welcome.
I'm not the wolf guy, but I've just been wanting to do that. I'm not surprised. I mean, you've been seeing these politicians. You know, they go into Congress and as a regular person, and they leave as a multi-millionaire. So it doesn't surprise me. Allow Elon to do what he needs to do to expose it. But like one of your previous callers says, and I've said this before in previous calls, is there has to be action. I mean, something has to happen. You have to see consequences. You know, the Democrats want to call it retaliation. It's not retaliation. It's consequences. And that's why they're panicking, and you're seeing their response is a fear-based response because they have something to hide. And a lot of these people that are in politics also are lawyers, Ivy League educated lawyers. So I always wondered, why do they go into politics? Because they're the ones writing the laws, and that's why they're 1,500 pages long, and that's why they use all kinds of word trickery, and they hide things, and they put loopholes in there. So I'm afraid that there aren't going to be any consequences because they probably crafted this way of stealing and manipulating and money laundering, and in such a way that they can't be prosecuted. Almost like I remember they were talking to Bob Menendez outside the courthouse when he first got charged, and he was like, "What are you kidding me? If they're going to charge me with this, you're going to charge everybody in Congress." I mean, this is just it's like legalized thievery.
Rich, look, we're going to have to find out, you know, I mean, look, I hear you. I'm cynical. I'm jaded. I can't tell you how many times I saw so many corrupt politicians who should have gone to jail and they haven't. Look, Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. There's no question. Obama should be behind bars. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, my God, how are they not behind bars? So the corruption in our country, in our society, is very deep. But Trump did promise that he was going to uproot it. So far, he's fulfilling his end of the deal. And now, look, we're going to find out what Pam Bondi is made of. We're going to find out what Kash Patel is made of. We're going to find out now what many conservatives, in the Department of Justice. Is it all just talk, or are they serious about upholding the rule of law and law and order? But there's no question, if no one is held accountable, then all this is being it's been a big waste of time. I think with Elon and Trump, I think they're serious. And I think heads are going to roll. 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. But joining us now, and it's my distinct honor and privilege to have him. We've had him on many times before. He is from Mass Fiscal Alliance, Paul Craney. Big development that all of you need to hear about, especially here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Paul, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on, Jeff. I very much appreciate it.
Well, you have to be on because what they're about to do at the state legislature is another form of highway robbery. So please, Paul, let everybody know that Maura Healey is going to try to do a massive $425 million bailout of the migrant housing crisis here in Massachusetts, and we, the taxpayers, are going to be on the hook. So can you explain exactly how she's trying to implement now this bailout?
Definitely, Jeff. So I think this is the fifth time Maura Healey has come before the legislature asking for a temporary budget to replenish the taxpayer funds for the migrant shelters. This time she's asking for $425 million. And on Thursday in the Massachusetts House, that request was passed. It has not gone before the state Senate yet. But here's the kicker, Jeff. Not only is it a ton of taxpayer money, and anyone that's paying attention sees in the media almost daily, if not weekly, the horrific crimes taking place in these shelters, the line of victims, and the taxpayers getting ripped off with these horrible contracts that are most of the time not disclosed, but we're paying for it. However, what was the real big kicker was that on Thursday, about 4 or 5 Republican state representatives put forward amendments. So they wanted to tack on a provision. The only provision I would consider is worthwhile to even to consider for the shelter program at this point. They were trying to make it so that ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, can cooperate with state resources. That was all they were trying to do. And every time the Speaker of the Massachusetts House ruled it, quote, out of scope, meaning the amendment to allow ICE to cooperate with local authorities in the shelter programs wasn't germane to the budget of $425 million. Now, that is laughable, but it's also inexcusable. But you definitely see it struck a nerve. So by them doing this procedural gimmicky move, it shielded rank-and-file Democrats from having to take that tough vote of yes or no. Do you think ICE can cooperate with state authorities? So you can see it struck a nerve that the Speaker didn't want to touch. So now this week, we think very early this week, probably, I'm not sure because it hasn't been posted yet, but it could be as soon as tomorrow or Wednesday, the Massachusetts State Senate will probably take up the same amount of money, $425 million. I can guarantee you there's going to be another debate about allowing ICE to cooperate with local authorities. And I wanted to come on your show because I do think us as taxpayers are going to win this fight. The state is going to run out of money. They don't have, quote, a partner in Joe Biden anymore to bail them out with federal funds. And eventually it's going to come to a head. The federal authorities they have the bandwidth, the capability, and the desire to root out these horrible criminals. And that type of pressure, along with not having federal money coming in, will eventually make it so the state is going to have to deal with this problem in a way that we would like. But for your audience, I'm asking your audience to please check out Mass Fiscal, massfiscal.org. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so that as many constituents contact their lawmakers, their senator, their rep, and the governor, and demand no more money for the shelter program. It's not capable of being run correctly, and another bailout isn't worthwhile. Like I said, the only type of reform I would even consider as worthwhile is allowing ICE to cooperate with state authorities. If you check out our website, massfiscal.org, you can send a quick email into the State House through your state rep and senator. Our software makes it really easy. It takes about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And when you're done, you can put the link on your social media page and forward it to your friends and family so they, too, can put the pressure into these politicians.
Paul, let me ask you the $64,000 question, because you're laying it out, I think, very clearly, very powerfully, how much this is costing the taxpayers in Massachusetts. It's deeply unpopular. Independents hate it. Republicans hate it. Even many Democrats now are turning against it. So what's in it for Maura Healey? Why does she insist? We're not doubling down or even tripling down. Now we're quadrupling down. Why does she want to keep pushing for these bailouts while you have homeless veterans on the street, residents of Massachusetts, legal residents, American citizens, unable to get access to emergency shelter, and yet she continues to insist another $425 million of our taxpayer dollars go in to the housing, this migrant housing crisis. What is driving her? Is it politics? Is it ideology? Frankly, is it hatred for the taxpayers and the people of our own Commonwealth? What is it, in your view, Paul?
I think politics is pushing her to keep it going. I don't think she cares for the taxpayers of Massachusetts at all. I think she will easily bankrupt our state. We've seen that the last 2.5 years with her budgets. But I think it's politics is what's driving it. And, Jeff, I wanted to share one little tidbit of information with your audience just to show you how bad it is at these shelters. We've all seen the news about the lines of victims there. And if you follow it closely, you'll see the governor and the speaker both came out recently, the last 30 days, saying they're going to reform the shelter program. And they said they're going to beef up background checks. Now, that sounds good, beefing up background checks, but when you read their description of how they're going to beef up background checks, they say they're going to ask people who go into our shelter program to self-declare if they have criminal records. Now, Jeff, I'm not an expert in law enforcement. I've never been a police officer, but I have to imagine asking people if they have criminal records or if they aspire to have criminal records is probably not going to curtail the criminal activity in the shelter programs. But those are the, quote, reforms they're willing to accept. So they're not really doing anything besides bailing out the shelter system. The only meaningful reform they could ever do is say, you know what, the feds, you guys have an appetite, you have the ability, you have the willpower to go and take out these criminals. Let's cooperate. Let's make it so you have a list of everyone that's in these shelters and keep the shelters safe. But they're not willing to do that because of politics.
Paul, we've got about a minute left. I don't want to rush you, but I think it's important to start putting some dollars and figures together. How much have we spent in total under Maura Healey housing migrants, feeding migrants, educating migrants, giving health care to migrants? How much has this cost in total the hardworking taxpayers of Massachusetts? How big is the bill, the tab, so far?
So they are admitting it's about $1 billion per year, and we're into year 3. I think it's more like $3 billion per year when you have all the indirect costs as well. But, you know, $1 billion is almost lost on most people. But think about your town, wherever you live. What can your town do with like $100 million? Think about all the streets that could get repaved, the parks get fixed up. I mean, this is big dollars when you start bringing it down to the local level. So it's hard for people to put their head around like $1 billion a year, $3 billion a year, times it by year 3, you know, maybe up to $9 billion now. But when you put it to your local level of a lot of people who live in the small towns of Massachusetts, then you realize, wow, we're foregoing all these repairs, all these maintenance, all these things our town could really use. And then you think about, well, think about my tax bill compared to, you know, these billions of dollars. And you realize, wow, this is a lot of money. So Maura Healey is admitting it's about $1 billion a year. But I think most observers think it's going to be double or triple that per year because a lot of the details she hasn't made public. She only allows some things to come out. But our good friends at Jessica Vaughn at the Center for Immigration Studies, she's been kind of on top of this. We've worked with her a lot, and this is only going to balloon out even more because they're not really fixing it. They're not adding a residency requirement. They're not allowing ICE to go in. They're just throwing more money. They're just bailing it out. So we think at Mass Fiscal, no more money for the shelter program. It's a failed experiment. The administration is not capable of running it. There shouldn't be more victims, and the taxpayer shouldn't foot the bill anymore. So I'm asking your audience, please check out massfiscal.org, massfiscal.org, and you can email your state senator, your state rep, and the governor. It takes a half a minute or so. We have a call to action there. And that's how you get your voice heard right now. And it's very important we put the pressure on these politicians.
Go to massfiscal.org, massfiscal, M-A-S-S, massfiscal.org. We've been talking with Paul Craney from Mass Fiscal Alliance. Paul, keep up the great work, buddy. And, of course, we'll have you on again. Don't let go, because this is one of the biggest issues facing the state. And you guys are doing outstanding work. Thank you, Paul. And we'll talk to you soon. 617-266-6868. More next. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome. Did we lose contact with Dan? All right, let's try Chris in Worcester. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Well, Jeff, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for everything you do, all the crime and mismanagement of funds that you bring to light to the real American people. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, my pleasure, Chris.
I say first and foremost, Trump, Elon Musk, keep going. Don't stop. Don't listen to these left-wing judges. Full speed ahead. Disobey their order and continue finding where the funds are going because it's costing us money and it's going to end. Now, let me tell you what happened on Friday. I was down in Worcester, okay, the central branch of the post office. 3 illegal families were there demanding passports, okay? And they had, each family had 2 anchor babies with them in each family. So they're breeding crazy. The person inside the post office was telling them they need to have an appointment. And these people were being demanded they don't need an appointment, they want it now. Everybody else has to wait for the appointments but them. I left because I was getting aggravated just listening to all this rhetoric that was going on. I had to leave, so I left. Later on that day, I went to a car dealership. Now, this one here is a real setback, where there was 2 Indian Moes trying to buy a vehicle. The salesman that I was dealing with said to me that these people get special pricing, special deals on vehicles, okay? And that the state of Massachusetts taxpayers pay for their auto insurance, which I didn't even know, okay? So they show some illegal documents and they get special pricing on vehicles to the point where they can get the top of the line of the brand they pick. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Everybody else pays sticker, but these people. What say you?
Well, I'm not surprised, Chris. I mean, that's been going on now for, I mean, I've been saying this line now, I don't know how many decades. Just treat me like an illegal. Don't treat me like an American. Treat me like an illegal because I'll be treated much better. So, no, you've got instances of, you have instances of American citizens here. This just happened a month ago. A single mother with 2 children, their house burned down. It wasn't their fault. There was a fire. They have insurance, but the insurance told them it's going to take a while to rebuild the house. It was freezing cold. We need to put you up in some kind of a hotel or a motel. There was nothing available. They then said, well, let's try the emergency shelter system. Nothing available. Why? Because all the local hotels and motels had rented every room at top dollar to the illegals. The emergency shelter system was so full of illegals that this is a woman, American citizen, Massachusetts resident for a very long time with 2 young children. She can't get, she can't get a hotel, a motel. She said, I'm going to sleep on the street. And by the grace of God, she had a relative who was willing to take her in. But had there not been a relative, this is the tragedy, she would have been forced to sleep on the street or in her car. Sleep on the street or in her car. So you see, illegals don't sleep on the streets. Only we Americans sleep on the streets. Illegals sleep at the Holiday Inn. And they get 3 catered meals a day. With dry cleaning, paid for, as an example. Homeless veterans sleep on the street. And there's not 1 catered meal, never mind 3. So I'm not surprised at any of this. I really am not. And I think this is the issue, more than anything else, that propelled Donald Trump to office. And the question now is, we're starting to find out how much money has been squandered and misspent and really wasted. Really flushed down the toilet. So we're writing them Social Security checks while most Americans can barely get by on Social Security. And they're telling us Social Security is going broke, but they got enough to keep writing these people checks. And by the way, no wonder they're saying the passports don't apply to them. That you have to wait in line and make an appointment, and because just look at how they're being treated when it comes to Social Security. They're getting Social Security checks. They don't have a Social Security number. The first thing I got when I came to this country legally was a Social Security number. The thought of not having a functioning in America without a Social Security number, it's unfathomable. So in the end, it's up to us, the American people. Are we going to allow ourselves to be disrespected and mistreated like this? Are we going to allow ourselves to become third-class citizens in our own country? Or are we going to insist that Donald Trump and Elon Musk, God bless them, don't just uncover all of this waste, fraud, and abuse, but finally do something about it? Send these illegals to jail? Send the people in the Treasury Department who knowingly sent them these checks? Send them to jail? And then ultimately go after the politicians who are the masterminds behind all of this. We can solve this problem, but we got to get serious. Lock them up. Bye-bye.